Welcome, my name is Alden Reed and you're watching Arcane Tablets. Thank you for joining me. Today we are continuing to introduce each of the 12 color tribes individually. As you can see, our journey now brings us to southern Europe and Anatolia, the homeland of the green color tribe. If you're not familiar with color tribes, I have a few videos up on my various channels and platforms which can provide you with some important introductory material. Basically, there are 12 human color tribes, and each tribe represents a color from the visible light spectrum or rainbow. Each color tribe has its own unique set of physical color characteristics, which symbolically anchor a unique metaphysical color energy. Okay, so as always, we like to start by situating ourselves geographically. As we might imagine, primary regions are areas where the green tribe is going to be clearly predominant, while secondary regions are areas where the green tribe is still present but probably more color blended, and where other color tribes are in some cases more predominant. Primary regions include Portugal, Spain, southern France, Italy, Montenegro, Albania, Kosovo, Greece, Macedonia, Turkey, Armenia, and Latin America. Secondary regions include Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia, Cyprus, Lebanon, and other parts of Europe, America, North Africa, and the Middle East. So here's a map showing the core regions of all the color tribes of the world, which will also help give you a sense of where the other color tribes are located. So again, we can see obviously the core green area here, the green homeland, I should say, is in Mediterranean Europe and southern Europe, and extending over here very much into Turkey as well. And we'll take a close-up look of Europe in a second here. I just want to mention, of course, that naturally the red color tribe used to be completely predominant throughout North and South America, but obviously that has changed quite a bit in the past 500 years. And in many of these regions, the green tribe is essentially the predominant color tribe. However, at the same time, it's important to understand that Latinos are highly color blended, and there are many Latino people that, while they may be primarily green, do have a certain amount of red as well. And there's also a lot of color blending between the cyan and red and indigo and red color tribes in this region. And we'll talk a lot about Latin America in the future because it requires a lot of color tribe disambiguation. So this map will help give us a little bit more detail when it comes to looking at the core regions of color tribes in West Eurasia and North Africa. So we can see really, again, the green zone is very much in southern or Mediterranean Europe, and it's going to be very strong throughout most of Turkey, and absolutely, of course, Greece, and extending very much into Albania and up into Montenegro here, and along the coastline here of the Adriatic Sea. And then in most of Italy, but especially a little bit more in the southern regions, and of course very much in Sicily and Sardinia and Corsica. And then very much in Spain and Portugal as well, but again, it's going to be a lot stronger in these southern regions here, whereas obviously these other regions are going to be a little bit more color blended, and there's going to be a lot more cyan people. And we'll look at the greater green region now. So now we're looking at a map of the greater green region. And of course, again, we've got our core here in Mediterranean Europe extending into Turkey, right? And there's going to be a little bit of green physical color characteristics all throughout North Africa, partly to do with Roman and Greek expansion, of course, and a little bit also in the Levant and perhaps extending into some other areas of the Middle East, right? And then the Balkans is going to be a very color-blended zone, right? There's going to be a lot of green people and a lot of blue people and a lot of color-blended green-blue people in these regions. Whereas Western Europe, especially more the mid-Atlantic area here, right? There's going to be a lot of color blending between green and cyan. And certainly, a lot of these areas are still going to be a little bit more predominantly cyan, right? But there's still going to be some green physical color characteristics present, partly to do with the expansion of the Roman Empire, Although, honestly, before the Indo-European steppe migrations came into these regions, most of Europe was a lot more green. They had a lot more green physical color characteristics than many of the people in these western and northern portions of Europe have today, right? So there are actually two kinds of melanin that influence human physical characteristics: eumelanin and pheomelanin. Eumelanin is a darker pigment that comes in shades of brown and black, and people from tropical regions usually have a lot of eumelanin in their skin, eyes, and hair. Conversely, people from temperate regions usually have much less eumelanin in their skin, and often less in their eyes and hair as well. Pheomelanin is a lighter pigment that comes in shades of red and yellow, so tribes which represent a color that includes red and or yellow do indeed have subtle red and or yellow hues and undertones in their skin. The key point here is that there is no blue pheomelanin, and as a result, tribes that represent a color that includes blue don't have skin colors with similar subtle blue hues or undertones. Instead, these tribes signal their color alignment with other physical characteristics like lighter hair and eye colors, especially blue eyes. Mono-green people usually have small amounts of brown eumelanin in their skin, mixed with small amounts of yellow pheomelanin, which imbues them with a variety of greenish undertones that range from brush sage to juniper. Their skin tans very nicely, and they often have a rich and earthy, sun-dried, deep olive complexion. Mono-green people have hair which ranges in color from dark brown to black, which is typically moderately thick and either wavy or curly. Their eyes are usually large or almond-shaped, and often framed by dark lashes and thick brows. They usually range in color from hazel to dark brown, but sometimes they are green or blue. Mono-green people typically have oval or heart-shaped faces with softly defined cheekbones, widely spaced eyes, and low eyelid creases. Their jawlines are normally either subtly rounded or taper to a soft point, structured but not angular. Their mouths are typically full, with wide smiles and expressive corners. Mono-green people usually have straight or mildly convex noses, which are occasionally slightly flared at the base. Their bodies are solid and stout, neither dense nor lean, with balanced limbs, smooth joint transitions, gentle curves, and medium-sized builds. Their well-proportioned bodies and rounded musculature provide them with plenty of core strength. Mono-green men tend to have moderate or dense body hair and plenty of facial hair. They often grow prominent, full beards. So before we continue, we need to talk about universal energy signatures and metaphysical correspondences. In basic terms, UES are raw, primal energetic forces that imbue many different things and categories within reality, especially key metaphysical systems like astrology, archetypes, chakras, and color tribes. As a result, specific units or attributes from each of these metaphysical systems, like Scorpio, the Counselor, the Heart Chakra, and Green, share natural corresponding relationships with the other attributes imbued by the same UES. Energy signatures also imbue each color tribe with gender, quality, and elemental energies. By studying each color tribe's aspects and corresponding attributes, we can learn about their unique metaphysical color energy. In truth, all human beings are meant to represent a color from the visible light spectrum. Using these color terms helps us more accurately describe human appearances, but they also help us understand each tribe's metaphysical color energy as well. Color energy strongly influences the creation of cultures, ethnic groups, and nationalities. So although each of these metaphysical systems are imbued by the same set of primal universal energy signatures, each of them has a primary sphere of influence where they tend to be more predominant. Astrology primarily influences our core personality, basic approach towards life, and fundamental sense of individual being. It governs our inner or emotional lives and core personal relationships with family, friends, lovers, and co-workers. It is the most complex of the spiritual sciences and the most attuned to who we are as multifaceted individual beings. Color energy primarily influences our cultural values, our attitudes towards governance, and the formation of social systems. It also gives people a specific color comportment or way of carrying and conducting themselves in public. Naturally, color-blended people have a more diverse color-blended color energy. Archetypes primarily influence our professional life, or the main reason, purpose, or goal behind our current incarnation. Primary archetypes define our core profession or purpose, while secondary archetypes modulate this primary energy. In essence, primary and secondary archetypes combine to make 144 unique sub-archetypes. To be clear, these spheres of influence are not mutually exclusive, and to a certain extent, these UES-imbued metaphysical attributes are layered on top of each other and do create a cumulative stacking effect. Nevertheless, each system does tend to predominate in these different spheres. So now let's go over the Green Tribe's aspects and corresponding metaphysical attributes to help us get a better idea of what green color energy is like. The Green Tribe is a feminine fixed water tribe, and they are aligned with the heart chakra, the astrological sign Scorpio, and the number 8. They're also aligned with the counselor archetype, which is very similar to the archetypal energy of the aunt, the priestess, the sorceress, and the psychologist. The core essence of these archetypes is compassion. Mono-green color features are thoroughly saturated with metaphysical green color energy. Their bodies and physique perfectly symbolize green's feminine, fixed, and water aspects, while also naturally synchronizing with green's corresponding attributes, Scorpio, the counselor, and the heart chakra. Mono-green people have warm and moist skin tones that often glisten like freshly pressed olive oil under the Mediterranean sun. They have a sensual and exuberant physical presence, and their facial expressions usually convey vibrancy, emotion, and joie de vivre. Their jawlines are frequently soft and gently curved in perfect imitation of the scorpion's tail. With finely rounded, well-proportioned curves, they look as if they were sculpted by the sea and born directly from Aphrodite's clam. Much like the scorpion and the sorceress, they wield a subtle form of power which is both intoxicating and dangerous, perfectly captured by their Mona Lisa smiles, deep eyes, thick lashes, arched brows, and soul-piercing eyes. Their movements are often passionate and tempestuous, but even when their mood is more tranquil, they still seem deeply engaged in some form of ritual or spellcasting. Their gaze is powerful and inviting, sometimes compelling us to reveal our deepest secrets, while at other times turning us to stone. The Green Tribe was the 8th tribe to fully congeal, sometime shortly after the Age of Aries began in 2308 BC. While the invasions of the Proto-Cyan, Blue, and Violet tribes from the Pontic Steppe drastically altered the color tribe landscape throughout most of Atlantic, Baltic, and Central Europe, the Green Tribe remained firmly situated in their ancient ancestral homeland of Mediterranean Europe and Anatolia, where the majority of mono-green people can still be found to this day. Due to their geographic proximity to the Bronze and Gold tribes in the Middle East and North Africa, the Green Tribe adopted most of the trappings of ancient Near Eastern civilization rather quickly, though naturally they imbued it with their own unique green color energy. This gave rise to a number of early green civilizations, from the Iberian culture in Spain, the Nuragic culture in Sardinia, the Etruscans and other early Italic cultures in Italy, the Mycenaean culture in Greece, the Minoan culture in Crete, and the Hittite culture in Turkey. Some of these cultures were at least partially infused and created by CBV Indo-European migrants, which accelerated the growth of a more militaristic mindset towards state building and foreign relations in many of these regions, which ultimately helped in part to accelerate the Bronze Age collapse in the early 12th century BC. Indeed, because Europe has 4 different color tribes all existing in close proximity, most European cultures tend to be at least partially color blended. To be sure, the Mediterranean zone is predominantly green, the Atlantic zone predominantly cyan, the Baltic zone predominantly violet, and Eastern Europe predominantly blue, but it is important to understand that most of these regions are at least partially color blended. Thus, while it is generally accurate to characterize the Hittite, Greek, and Roman cultural horizons as predominantly green, many cyan and some blue and violet warriors bled down into these regions, especially as the Age of Aries progressed, forging some of the earliest highly color-blended civilizations in the world. As we have discussed, color-blended cultures tend to be more dynamic than monocolor cultures and are often ideal vehicles for rapid civilizational growth and cultural diffusion. Classical Greek, Hellenistic, and Roman cultures would prove this point time and time again, taking center stage in world civilizational development during the final phases of the Age of Aries and culminating in the rise of universal Roman imperium in the Age of Pisces. As we have also discussed, the gold and green tribes channel powerful heart chakra energy, which has always made them ideal intermediaries between the longer wavelength root, sacral, and solar plexus chakra tribes and the much shorter wavelength throat and third eye chakra tribes. In many ways, this is why the Mediterranean Sea, the homeland of the gold and green tribes, served as the beating heart for world civilization for about 2,000 years, from roughly 500 BC to 1500 AD. As a feminine fixed water tribe aligned with Scorpio, the counselor, and the heart chakra, the green tribe has long provided a steady but flowing progressive anchor to Western Eurasian culture. Green cultures tend to emphasize agricultural, artisanal, and artistic production, generally striking a balance between both urban and rural values. Naturally, green cultures have always been deeply embedded to the coastline and in love with the sea, and the Mediterranean and Black Seas have long served as highways for explorers, merchants, colonists, and warriors, enabling rapid and explosive patterns of cultural diffusion. Predominantly green cultures generally favor more local and democratic forms of government, and in modern times tend to have at least mildly socialist tendencies. At the same time, the Scorpio energy provides plenty of space for personal independence and individual achievement, especially when it comes to philosophy, literature, and art. The far more bellicose side of ancient Hittite or classical Greek and Roman culture was largely due to the infusion of many Scion tribe people from Northern Europe, who we will be discussing in detail in the next presentation. As we already mentioned, many CBV Indo-European people migrated down into the Mediterranean zone long before recorded history began in Europe, and as the cyan, blue, violet bloc started to separate and differentiate themselves more fully towards the end of the Age of Aries, even larger waves of freshly minted cyan Celtic peoples continued to pour into these regions, infusing Greek and Roman culture with a hybrid green cyan color energy that fueled the more militaristic and expansionistic side of these cultures. Nevertheless, the homelands of each color tribe are naturally the areas where each tribe evolved their specific physical characteristics, and they have a way of gradually absorbing people from other color tribes and thereby protecting the local color energy. Thus, while it is impossible to understand Greek and Roman culture or modern Mediterranean culture without accounting for the substantial cyan and somewhat smaller blue and violet infusions into the region, Southern Europe remains a predominantly green zone. In 1,000 different ways, we can see how this feminine fixed water energy, so closely aligned with Scorpio, the counselor archetype, and the heart chakra, has so thoroughly imbued the predominantly green cultures of Mediterranean Europe and Anatolia. All right, thank you for joining me on this journey of human color tribe exploration and celebration of human diversity. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others. Next up, we are going to journey to Western Atlantic Europe and find out what is going on with the cyan color tribe. For now, I want you to know that you are wonderful, you are beautiful, and you are absolutely perfect, just the way you are. Know that I love you very much and that God loves you very much as well. Many blessings. We will see you again very soon.